The key to language learning is getting enough exposure to your target language. And whilst everybody can have their own methods and preferences, other activities are less effective if you don't have context for what you're learning about. So regardless of whether you're a flashcard fanatic or shadowing is your idea of a good time, you're not going to get that far if you're not exposed to enough of the language. For Chinese, I didn't get anywhere learning about the language. I just started making progress when I got material that was graded for learners. It all changed when I discovered graded readers, and more importantly, when I got the audiobooks for those graded readers and I could listen to them everywhere I went. So without having to sit down and study every day, I can easily get exposure to material that I understand, which nicely leads us onto the unsung heroes of language learning. In fact, this video was inspired by a comment from Charlotte who said, after my recommendation, this has been a complete game changer for her. She started using the bone conduction headphones that I recommended, and since using them, the amount of input she's been getting has nearly tripled. So why is such a simple thing, such as having a decent pair of headphones, so important? Because let's be honest, just using some headphones isn't exactly rocket science. There are some important factors that, in my opinion, you really don't want to overlook. The first is that it removes resistance to getting input. Quite simply, the more steps there are in order to get some input in your target language, the less likely you are to do it. I've always got my headphones on, press play, boom, I'm getting input in my target language. Any moments of downtime, you can immediately get some input. You've got a podcast or something else queued up, press play, you're ready to go. And these small moments add up over time. Another point is that getting input or engaging in your target language is something that happens when you're in certain places or doing certain activities or at certain times. It's part of your daily life that you constantly do every time you're doing a task that doesn't require 100% of attention. And habits are powerful. You go from someone who wants to learn a second language to someone that is, and your behavior shapes your identity as a language learner. Now, I know I'm talking about headphones here, but if we're doing the sorts of activity in our daily lives that we expect a productive language learner to be doing, then we must be a productive language learner. And the more exposure you get, the more accustomed you become to your target language. So even if you're doing other activities like studying grammar, for example, that grammar is all just theory until you've heard it thousands of times and it just sounds natural to you. Now, I'm not saying you should ignore all other forms of study and just listen necessarily, but it's the easiest thing we can do and do a lot of, even if we've got other day-to-day commitments. So if you are learning a language and you don't have headphones on you at all times, you might be missing out on some of these opportunities. But there are some important considerations that you don't want to miss. So let's talk about the obvious first, cost. I'm sure there are headphones out there that don't cost the earth, and I'm sure there are some very fancy ones that aren't worth the price. What I would say is that there is a lot of free audio material out there, like podcasts, for example, and having a decent pair of headphones means that you're more likely to engage with material that you enjoy. So I mostly use these headphones, others are available. They are bone conduction headphones, so this is the bone conduction bit that goes on the side of your head, and if I put my fingers in my ears, I can actually hear it better. So it's not, I was looking around, and if you look at reviews, often there are cheaper pairs and it's basically just a small speaker next to your ear and the sound quality isn't very good. These are very simple. There are some more expensive ones around that have more features, but I don't want features, I just want input. And for me, they're way safer. I can get lots of input when I'm walking the dog, but I can cross the road without fear of not hearing a car coming. The bummer for me is that if I'm walking next to an extremely busy road, because my ear is open, I often get the extra traffic noises, which affects my ability to listen. I think the cost is worth it, in my opinion. I also use headphones when I'm driving, but the issue with these is that if I'm sitting nice and upright, the bar at the back presses against the headrest. So for that, I often use these bad boys. Just generic, cheap Apple headphones. Yeah, I'm the kind of guy who travels around with 2 pairs of headphones at all times. The open shock ones are Bluetooth, and if the batteries run out or if it's getting low and the American lady in there tells me battery low, I then swap to the Apple ones to not be annoyed so much at that poor woman. There's not much to say here. They're comfortable when I drive. The wire gets in the way, which is why I prefer the Bluetooth ones as well, but they do the job. And with those open shocks ones, because the ear is open, I'm not taking them on and off all the time, which leads me to these bad boys. These are just some cheap noise cancelling headphones, but if I were to be on public transport or something like that, then I would use these. Generally, I don't like them as much because I can't hear anything else. If audio quality is important to you, then clearly they're perfect for that. I do use them if I'm hoovering though, so they're wireless and noise cancelling, which is perfect if you're doing the chores. Sometimes I think I should be a cleaner and basically get paid to learn a foreign language. It sounds ideal. I do an absolute ton of listening, or at least as much as I can, and having decent headphones makes the process so much easier. I can genuinely say that I wouldn't progress nearly as far in my Spanish if it weren't for the ability to listen all the time. And ultimately, that is what we are all after. We might all have some different goals, but I'm sure they all relate in some way to making progress in our target language. So don't make it any harder than it needs to be. Look around for some headphones that you think you would use and make an investment. It really is an investment in yourself, and I know that sounds cheesy, but what's the point of paying for online courses or online material if you're not going to get enough exposure to it? What I would say though is using a lot of audio material, it's important to approach it in the right way. So check out this video here where I'm going to explain exactly how to do that. Just a short one from me this week, but I hope it was useful. Thanks for watching, enjoy the journey and keep going.